of different things she could do. She drove down to Clayton County because we were able to get a funeral home down there. It was like an hour to get there. It wasn't North Clayton. It was like in the thick of it. So it just took a day to drive down there just to meet.
This is magic. We're going to a movie theater and there's like 8 minis stuff in a bra. Like, it's like magical for women. I love this.
Like just, and it was like, of course, like she's just.
All righty. Wait, there's time for beverages. We're not getting started quite yet. If you can hear me, clap twice. That was the weakest clap I've ever heard from a military group. All right. So we're not going to get started quite yet. I'm going to give you one opportunity to go get beverages because my jokes, if you've been here before, are terrible. So I need y'all very well inebriated if possible. Taylor, I need security. Sid's talking smack. So get a refill, grab a plate, grab some snacks. We're going to get rolling here in the next 2 minutes. If Jackie can get torn away from Jared, I'm going to steal her away. You're here to be called out all night, Jared. I love it. Good night. I see what he did there. Good night.
We're just getting started.
Give us about 2 minutes. We're going to get rolling, y'all. So I'm going to sit you in front of yourself.
Oh, boy.
If that's acceptable to you.
Of
course, we'll be recording all the good things.
Okay.
Quick and easy combo.
Okay.
You're not nervous, are you? You need shots? Tequila?
No, I'm all right. Very weird. My worlds are absolutely colliding right in this moment.
You know, it's
Huh?
a very small world in a very
interesting way.
Yeah. From business.
What happened? Yeah.
So yeah, colliding very quickly. And I love that in so many ways. Gross. Marines.
Don't pull me into that one.
No, right? So before I bring you up here, I'm gonna hit one slide.
You want what?
I'm gonna hit one slide before I bring you up here.
Yeah.
I have a couple announcements.
Yeah.
So
do your work.
Don't go too far.
I won't.
Go that way.
Yes, sir.
Right there. I'm gonna put this in the seat for you.
Okay. Is it any magic?
It's already on. You're already good. Everything's already hot.
Do I have to hold it way up here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it should be good.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Liz? Perfect. Y'all keep talking. I'm just doing a sound test. We're trying out a different speaker system today. Taylor, do you need to make anybody at the bar do push-ups? All right. I think Jared Turner needs push-ups. Oh, you're sitting in the front row too. I love that. Bald, bearded, and beautiful. Like, we're twins, bro. Like, this is what everybody wants to see. I do. Taylor points out every day, oh, you have 6 grays. You have 7 grays. So I'm getting old, y'all. Like, this is really going downhill very quickly. Did everybody get another beverage?
Yes.
Kathy, you know better. You know I'm not funny. So I need way more alcohol. So hello, everybody. Good to have you all here tonight. We're going to have a good conversation just to set expectations. We're going to go about 40 minutes until Jackie gives me the mean mug and says she's done talking. But we're going to highlight several different things with Jackie, the Shepherd Center, the SHARE program, her involvement in all the amazing things happening in Atlanta. If y'all don't know me, I'm Zack A Knight. I am the founder of ATLVets, Advancing the Line for Veterans. We're at the Buckhead Club, and I'm looking for... We do not have one out here. So the Buckhead Club is doing some amazing things with veterans. Our capability of being here is because of the veteran club within the club here. So they let us host this as well as several other events every month here at the Buckhead Club. So if y'all, has anybody ever not been to the Buckhead Club before? So the Shepherd people have never been to the Buckhead Club. You've been here before. Yeah. Buckhead Club. Anybody else has never been to the Buckhead Club? All right, so all y'all know the deal, except for the Shepherd people. You'll find out more as we go today. But they're doing great things for veterans to support a lot of what we're working on. Tonight, we're going to feature, obviously, Shepherd Center. Before I get diving too far into it, as he's eating, I'm going to interrupt all of it. If y'all don't know, I'm the marketing communications lead for Vetlanta. Vetlanta was founded about a decade ago with some really old, amazing people out of the Fortune. My jokes, y'all, come on, y'all got to stick with me. This is where I need y'all drinking way more. But Vetliner was founded by Lloyd, who is attached to UPS, runs military hiring, all the amazing things at UPS. So I'm going to bring Lloyd up and talk a little bit about our Q2 summit coming up. If you would, that one is hot and ready for you. Please welcome Lloyd, y'all.
Here has been to the Vetliner Summit. So after June 20th, so come on out.
All right, I lied to you because you're so quiet. I set you up for failure.
It's Army. Of course, you're going
Absolutely. Oh,
So yeah, come on out. It's at the Atlanta History Center.
that might be in the system.
So which is the wonderful place to go. So we're gonna have some of the catered food. Our catered food is, if you've been around me, you probably heard me say, when I was in the Air Force, I never had much need for Marines. Are you? I know you're in there somewhere. But as a leader in the veteran space and as a leader at UPS, I love Marines. And I surround myself with Marines.
And one Army guy.
And one Army.
Yep.
3/4. So and our caterer for this next summit is Rally Point, the bar and grill, which used to be Semper Fi Bar and Grill. So we're gonna have some delicious food. We're gonna have some great networking. So that Atlanta Summit, which you can expect, is about 2 hours worth of pretty amazing networking. We're gonna have about 25 tables that are set up. These tables are gonna be set up. They have nonprofit organizations and government agencies, academia, even some employers. And they're looking to do a couple of things. So first of all, they're looking to help veterans and their families. So, but if you don't need help, they're always looking for volunteers and contributors and champions for their organization. And then after that, we're going to have about an hour of speakers, including one of the board members for Commonwealth Hours this time around. And then anybody here know Tyler Bowser out here? So if you don't know Tyler Bowser, Air Force veteran, an amazing individual, had some bad luck, bad decisions, and found himself living in his car. Homeless here in Atlanta, ended up going to the Veterans Empowerment Organization. If you're not familiar with that organization, it's a homeless shelter on the west side. Kind of rehabilitated himself, and now he owns his own house. So he's doing some pretty amazing work. He works for the Cobb Collective now, and he's going to tell his testimonial, so which is going to be very, very powerful. So you can check us out, vetlanta.org, the events page. If you register, I look forward to seeing you. There should be about 300, Zach, at this point.
A little bit more.
So I love your confidence. Thanks, Zach.
You said it now right there. That's perfect. Thank you. So if y'all get harassed by Vetlanta stuff, who gets like Vetlanta stuff all the time? Wow. All right. I'm not doing my job. All right. Who gets ATLVets stuff all the time? Who gets both all the time? Perfect. I'm harassing the shit out of y'all. Come to the events. The Q2 summit is going to be awesome. ATLVets is actually sponsoring the venue at the History Center. Super excited about that partnership, and as things grow, we're really excited to have the Vetlanta aspect there as well. One thing that I really want to celebrate attached to this evening is we just hit a milestone of Advancing Line for Veterans. It worked. Just had a birthday. So we turned 1 year old 3 days ago. Thank you. Thank you. I was hoping there would be a birthday cake, but there's not one, so it's fine. I didn't plan for it. So we turned 1 year old literally on the 7th of June. And it's something that my board and my people around have been telling me I need to do more to update the things we're working on, the things we're building here in Atlanta and outside of Atlanta. We have several of those amazing team members here. We have my better three quarters, Taylor. Smile and wave. Right. If y'all don't know, Taylor loves making men cry, and she's the prettiest drill sergeant I've ever had. So she runs our workout. She's our movement pillar. She does all the amazing things to literally highlight our workouts and keeping veterans moving. We also have Miss Casey Sullivan, who is the queen fashionista. She's hiding in the corner with Frederick, and she's my glitter, and I can't get rid of her, but she's amazing. And she does a lot of our mindset pillar, focuses on helping veterans shift their mindset, look good, feel good. If y'all saw about a couple weeks ago, I won an award at the Warrior Alliance, along with Maria, also won an award over there. So we're doing some amazing things. We might have somebody with the Warrior Alliance in the audience. Jared, you can smile and wave. Smile and wave. So if y'all don't know Jared Turner, he's business development extraordinaire, for lack of a better terminology, with the Warrior Alliance, a bald and bearded, beautiful man. But Warrior Alliance honored me with the Veteran of the Year. Their Impact Awards is amazing, and a big shift was highlighting a lot of what we're doing with advancing in line with veterans and trying to push forward in several amazing arenas. One thing that we're pushing out, everybody's heard the 22 a day piece, right? Y'all know the 22 veterans a day, suicide. A big piece that we don't talk about a lot, I think I do disservice of, is there are veterans that are committing suicide every day. And a lot of these organizations focus on veteran suicide. What we focus on is workforce development, professional development, and entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to preventing veteran suicide. So we just are launching a campaign called 22 a day. And a big piece of this is to prevent veteran suicide, where we don't just give veterans a fish, we teach veterans to fish in the civilian world. So if you scan this QR code, I'll get out of the way. If you scan this QR code, what we're asking for is we move through things. This highlights the statistics. This highlights a lot of what we're going to talk about with Jackie today in the Shepherd Center, because TBIs are one of the greatest impact pieces attached to what veterans are struggling with. But this QR code leads to our 22 a day landing page. And what our ask attached to it is $22 a month on a recurring basis to support everything we're doing to teach veterans how to fish. The workforce development, the professional development, the entrepreneurship, and really highlight this is how we are combating the cause of veteran suicide and putting it into that. But it leads overall directly. I'm gonna leave that up because I see phones still. That's right, Taylor, I need you to like subscribe to this, and I'm getting mean mugged. All right, so if y'all don't know, I'm gonna call a lot of people out and y'all haven't drank enough. So please, more beverages. So this is a big piece. We're celebrating our birthday and we're highlighting this new campaign to really teach veterans how we can professionally develop in a different capacity. But that leads us to the star of the hour. So without further ado, Miss Jackie, I'm going to drag you up here. Please, please sit on the throne with the alcohol. I told her we're going to get her really well liquored up before we talk about this. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that out loud. So Jared's also on the board of Shepherd Center. So what she told me is that Jared answers to her. Yeah, all right.
It's a true statement. You know that to be true.
I have brain injury, so I don't remember anything.
Beautiful, beautiful. So a big piece of this conversation that we're going to have for the next 30, 40 minutes is highlighting not only the Shepherd Center, the impact Shepherd Center making, the impact that the SHARE program's having. And Jack and I have known each other for a while. What I want to do a little bit different. Normally I read the bio, I give the highlight reel, I do all the things that kind of, hey, this is what we know about you on paper. But I want to shift the conversation a little bit. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. And you're already cringing, and I love that. You're going to have to talk about yourself slightly, just a little bit. I want to discover more about Jackie, and I want to discover more about the SHARE program truly through conversation. Instead of reading a piece of paper and saying, this is the bullet points we can read on the website, I want to dive into the actual impact that's happening here in Atlanta in an amazing way. And you're leading the charge attached to that. Before we dive into all of that, I do my podcast this way, so we're going to be fun with this. Tell us a fun fact that nobody in the room knows about you.
That nobody in the room
Including
knows?
Jared, including the team here with the Shepherd Center. Give us a fun fact.
Wow.
And she said she hates talking about herself. So like what's awesome is putting people on the spot to say, hey, tell something silly about yourself.
Yeah, normally my fun fact is, well, I mean, Freddie's here, Jared's here, so they know my fun fact.
Okay, so besides these two that have known you for
Can
a
I
decade,
share?
go ahead,
Because
hit me with it.
I
Let's hear it.
used to be a professional boxer.
So
Yeah. 8-2 with 6 knockouts. Just all right.
6 knockouts. That's been my week with Taylor. There it is. Got one that lagged. Yeah, got it. So I knew this about you. What I didn't know, and Frederick, if you don't know, smile and wave, Frederick, Mr. Emmy award winner over here. also on the board of the Buckhead Club, does amazing things. Y'all met like 15-ish years ago in the middle of filming a lot about your story, female boxers, different aspects. Tell us more about that. You used to be a boxer, not a common thing. I would imagine you're still a boxer to some extent.
For fitness, yes.
There you
but
go.
My fighting days are done.
So tell us a little bit about how'd you get involved in boxing? Why was that the passion? Because it takes a lot to be a professional boxer.
Yeah.
Right. So how'd you dive into that piece?
Well, so before we focus on me, I want to pause and just make sure, like, Freddie is an extremely talented man. Like, no, I mean, I think it needs to be stated, the works that he's created is phenomenal. And so I know this isn't the Freddie show, it's not the Jackie show.
And he's already been a
this is
speaker.
the Zach show.
He's already been a speaker for us,
And
but
so
and he's
like,
amazing.
it was so anyway, all right. So back to your question.
Let's pause on Freddie for a second.
All right. Yes,
Because I love making him blush. Like it's a beautiful thing.
I agree.
He's also done work with the VA attached to Tomorrow Pictures. He has a production company here in Atlanta. There's a lot of indie films, documentaries, different things. In my day job outside of the nonprofit, I'm the head of security and operations for the Atlanta History Center. And I'm walking through one day and I see Tomorrow Pictures logo pop up. And I'm like, I know that guy. So he's done a lot attached to Atlanta history, a lot attached to video in different capacities, some truly amazing work. I would say the best work, though, is probably the work he did with you. So let's go back to Jackie because Frederick's over there in the corner.
So I got into boxing I guess I tripped into boxing. When I was in the undergraduate, University of Texas, hook 'em horns, I was actually on the rowing team. Right? And
not yay, Texas. No Texas. But yay rowing.
to University of Texas women's rowing just won national championship last weekend, so we can connect those. But anyway, so I was on the rowing team, and when I went and randomly after my rowing career, it was my last semester of school, I was walking through Austin, and I had on 2 separate occasions folks ask me if I was a boxer. I'd never boxed in my life. And I said, no. And I think I summarized it as like, I kind of walk like a linebacker. So they must have drawn their own conclusion, but I just let it go. And then when I was in grad school, University of North Carolina. No, it's true. Watch me walk out of here.
Just don't get her away because she like shoulder check you. She might throw a jab.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So when I was in graduate school in North Carolina, fast forwarding, I was sitting at a coffee shop, and I was stopped again by someone asking if I was a boxer. And I thought, well, no. And then I looked down and there was an ad about learn to box on there. And so, I think sometimes when the universe shows you signs multiple times, multiple places, listen to it. And so I took a class and fell in love with it. Fast forward later, when I moved to Atlanta to do my internship after graduate school, before I found a place to live, I found a boxing gym. And so I trained at the boxing gym and had a couple amateur fights at that gym, and just kind of fast forward and propelled me to fight professionally. I loved it. I still do.
So
But it's weird to work in brain injury. And
I was
be a
about to
fighter.
say there's a tie in
There is
there
a
with
tie-in.
brain injury.
Isn't there?
And have you ever heard of Billy Blanks?
Like Tybo?
That's my boxing experience right
Okay.
there. Come on, y'all. Like y'all
No.
got to warm up with me. Like Tybo, come on. That was good. No,
No.
not there. Okay. So I thought right. Man. Oh man, tough crowd. I told y'all to drink more, okay? So, but it is funny.
Yeah, right? Like, yeah, I'm not gonna.
She encouraged stubborn veterans.
Ask Jared how I encourage stubborn
So,
veterans.
Before we get to the
Hip-hop.
I was about to say, yeah. I was about to say before we get into that aspect, there is an interesting tie attached to boxing, head injuries, TBIs. As we highlight the importance of that piece of the conversation, talk about what Shepherd specializes in. Does anybody not know Shepherd Center? You don't know what Shepherd Center is? Okay. How many people know what Shepherd Center is, but doesn't know what the SHARE program is? Okay. So you have a great blending between people that don't know what Shepherd is And then, of course, the share program, which you're ahead of the in lead of the share program. Can you give us a full gambit? What Shepherd specializes in? And then down into what share specializes in?
This I got. It's much easier for me to talk about Shepherd than myself. So Shepherd is just down the street on Peachtree Road, south of here. And it is a brain injury and spinal cord injury specialty rehab hospital. It was founded from the result of an individual, James Shepherd, who in the late 70s, actually mid 70s, after graduating from college, went body surfing off the coast of Rio de Janeiro, and a wave came and threw his body down to the ocean floor. And he says he knew immediately that things were different. His friends, he said he tried to push off the bottom and nothing happened. His friends came and drug him out to the out of the water. They tried to resuscitate him. Anyway, fast forward, at the time in the 70s, the only place to get the specialty care, his family was saying, where's the best care for our son, was actually over in Colorado. And so Atlanta and the Herald, James' parents said, there's no reason why there shouldn't be a place closer to us in the Southeast. And so this is a family that really moved heaven and earth to make sure that their son got the appropriate and specialty care that he needed. And what parent wouldn't? And so they decided with their own means and with their relationships to start the Shepherd Center in Atlanta. And so fast forward to here we are today. We're 152 beds focusing in brain injury and spinal cord injury. We also have a large program in outpatient for MS. And through that, we've developed some specialty programs for our military veterans on the mild brain injury continuum. So Shepherd is known as being leading in the class focusing in brain injury and spinal cord injury. We have the fortune of really having the best therapists that are attracted to work with us from across the country and have incredible outcomes. So super proud to be a part of Shepherd.
And I think she actually just undersold Shepherd Center.
Oh, absolutely. There's no way to do it justice.
There's not.
Yeah.
There's not. And I know the incoming, I say Alana Shepherd. She's the founder attached to a lot of these things, started the Shepherd Center. The incoming CEO is Jamie Shepherd, who I know decently well. Both amazingly humble people. And I think you can see the organization's well into the 9 figures now. I mean, it's not a small organization by any means. And you have these two very humble people that also, you can tell, very mission oriented, right? They really want to serve, attached to the organization they built. But the reality of it is, this is the internationally like top of its class TBI spinal cord. It's not just like a clinic here in Atlanta. It's like the clinic in the world. I would say, I don't know another one in the world.
We have folks come from other countries. Absolutely. Atlanta Shepherd in her own right is a living legend. She's amazing. And not only has she managed to create this incredible hospital specializing in this, she's also managed to ensure that the culture of caring for others and the hospitality aspect is like in lockstep with providing quality care. It's amazing. So yeah, there's no words or time that could ever do it justice, but we have patients who come from all over the world to get treated.
And it's really fascinating. An organization I'm a part of, I did a tour where you met Taylor for the first time. And when she described to me, I was traveling and missed that, unfortunately, sent her in my stead with Ben's, Sid, and the awful Hawaiian shirt over there, Go Army. But Ben's was able to do a tour of Shepherd Center, and y'all opened the doors. And what she didn't realize is she sat next to Elena. And then you said she was in her little scoot cart and was like mowing people over in the hallway, and literally took Taylor by the hand and was like, hey, this is what we are and this is what we're about. And what Elena didn't know, and what a lot of people don't know, when I got back from Afghanistan, I sent veterans through Shepherd, through Share specifically. What she didn't know, and I'm going to tell a little bit of the family history. When Taylor's dad, when Taylor was in her teens, her dad took a motorcycle out that was her brother's motorcycle. Her brother is an Army veteran as well. Again, go Army. But her dad took a motorcycle ride to keep the motorcycle tuned up for her brother. Ended up wrecking the motorcycle. Ended up, long story short, but had a very severe injury, and then spent 9-10 months in Shepherd Center. So there's a very strong tie into our world from the military and family attached to the impact that Shepherd has, and everything from reattaching his left arm essentially to all the forward care. She has seen it literally firsthand attached to, this is the impact Shepherd makes. I've seen it firsthand with the veterans. This is the impact Share really makes. And then to have Elena scoot around and tell people to get out of the way, here's what we're about. Truly like humbling to see from that level down the amount of care. And I'm gonna brag so much about this because it's truly gives me chills talking about it to see how much y'all have done. Who all is Shepherd oriented here? I know I've got two ladies over here. So Shepherd team. I know you're oriented, but Shepherd team, we got two ladies over here, smile and wave. We have this lovely lady. Then we have Jared, the bald, bearded, beautiful man. So there's a piece here that, can we give them, like, just for real, a quick round of applause for all the impact? And this is why I wanted to bring Jackie in to talk about not just the Share program, Shepherd, all the impacts. I think for all the people that didn't know what this program and this organization is doing, this is what is truly veteran support, right? Are you a veteran yourself?
Nope.
Have you ever been attached to a veteran family member in that realm?
Uncles, grandparents.
And why do you, so you're running not just the part of Shepherd with the TBI and boxing injuries, but there's a piece attached to the veteran with Share program. And the Share program gives a better insight of that. It's for veterans specifically attached to.
Yeah, so Share treats post 9/11 active duty and separated service members, and now first responders as well, who have mild to moderate brain injuries with co-occurrence of psychological issues that go along with it. Post-traumatic stress tends to be most common, but not always. We treat them at no out-of-pocket expense to them. So folks can fly in to us across the country. We're able to do that. We have partnerships with airlines. They don't have to pay for their tickets. We have apartments that they can stay in at no cost to them through the duration of their care. And they are surrounded by a team of professionals that focus on leaving no stone unturned to make sure that they're getting the care they need to navigate the symptoms of their injuries.
Phenomenal.
No out-of-pocket expense.
That part right there. And I'm somebody, as a veteran, we all appreciate a handout. We all appreciate a hand up. But I'm also one of those old challenger veteran. You're going to put some skin in the game for yourself. What I think Shepherd and Share specifically does really well, it's private funding, donor based. There's no, we all know the VA. I won't say anything ill about the VA, but there's no ebb and flow attached to care. Like, I feel like the true core of Shepherd is like, I'm going to come there and I'm going to truly be served in a customer service oriented capacity. Can you talk a little bit about just like the culture of the organization as a whole and how it feeds down into veterans?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to Atlanta Shepherd. I think it's amazing. You hear about like through generations, and the longer organizations are in existence, the further sometimes they are distant from their original purpose and culture. And the Shepherd family has managed to instill that throughout multiple generations of care. Alana Shepherd, she will call out, and it doesn't matter who they are. Like, folks are afraid of Alana. I'm afraid of Alana, and I'm not afraid of a lot of people. I was going to say Jared, but that doesn't really count. So, but I am afraid of or I'm not afraid of a lot of people, but Alana, possibly. Not because she's mean, but because she is absolutely fierce in making sure that she is always focused on doing the right thing. And she will stop other physicians if they're walking through the halls of Shepherd looking down at their phones. And she will say, no, we look at people in the eye and we smile here. And they will put their phones away respectfully and smile and say, yes, ma'am. Like, that is Alana Shepherd to the core. Another example of the culture, this is a family who's been supporting their loved one through care, right, decades ago. A lot of hospitals charge for parking. Shepherd could make a lot of money and cover costs of other programs by charging for parking. Shepherd has never charge for parking for patients and families. Probably never will, because they know what it's like to be a loved one. And so those are two kind of examples that just really highlight how they mean it. The culture is really, really important. And folks that aren't in line with the culture don't end up staying very long, either because they recognize they can't catch up, or Shepherd helps them recognize they aren't catching up. But that culture is so key.
And there's one thing I just have to ask. In a boxing match,
Alana wins.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Is she allowed to use the scoot or, and she's going to win either way?
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And that leads, so much of what we talk about in these events, and a lot of what I talk about on my podcast, the podcast, The Tactical Leader, it talks about the tactics of leaders, right? And what I love about hearing something of that level of a leader, keeping the organization straight, right? And that's a tough thing to do in any environment, but also you think about in the military world, the type A world, the world where we don't want to accept help. We're not going to accept help. We're not going to ask for help. So essentially, she probably has to run over a few veterans to get the help every once in a while, right? There's a laughter because, the veteran over here knows, like, sometimes you got to kicking and screaming, bring the person that needs the help to the place that provides the help. Can you just talk to us a little bit about, I know there's a lot of outreach programs happening over here. Some good things that interesting things I'm learning about art and painting, and some we had a good conversation the other day about how we can integrate more with what Shepherd's doing. But some really amazing programs. Can you talk to us a little bit about the perspective of highlighting Shepherd Center, the marketing, the branding, the outreach of how do you bring veterans in and make it a safe space for veterans to show up to?
Yeah, so that's tricky. Shepherd, and real quick, I feel like I have to correct myself in case Mr. Shepherd listens. I'm realizing it's Elena, not Alana, because I'm always reminded
And
it's
so
Atlanta.
that's my fault. So
No,
she's come to my
you
events before and I always get corrected.
I'm corrected. So
Thank
she
you.
hears
Please
it.
do.
I'll
Please do.
I was saying that
I'll
too.
text this to her and then
You're
we're both
awesome.
gonna get in trouble,
So,
right?
anyway, okay. So Shepherd, I will say historically, I remember when I first came to Shepherd, and I remember the PR folks saying it's so fun to work for Shepherd because their job is so easy from a marketing perspective, that folks are aware of the outcomes, they're aware of the patient care, that there's a long wait list to come in, that they aren't typically accustomed to that type of marketing. But what we learned from the share side is on the military side, it's different. Years ago, there was a study done by RAND that said service members are more likely to listen to the opinions of other service members far more than they'll listen to any other professional healthcare provider, et cetera. And so we have spent a lot of time trying to identify how can we reach the veterans that need care. And for us, it has truly been boots on the ground. It's having folks that will go out and go to wherever there's a veteran and be willing to sit and be still and talk to them and develop that relationship with them and earn their trust to see if they're willing to come to us. And then word of mouth is really, to this day, our highest referral source. When we have veterans or service members that come through, they go back, they tell their battle buddy, and then they refer to us. So what works with the veteran community is different than what works for the civilian community. What's amazing about Shepherd, though, is Shepherd is willing to say, okay, we'll figure out a way to support both of these because we want to make sure our civilians get the care they need and our veterans get the care they need.
And I think that's a really interesting perspective. And a lot of what we're doing with Event in Line, our first pillar is marketing. So everything we talk about, we highlight where nonprofits don't do a good job of marketing. But beyond that, veterans do a terrible job of marketing. And you put the two together, and veteran service organizations are the worst at marketing because we're terrible about talking about ourselves. We're terrible about talking. Again, I got yelled at. I have to celebrate our birthday, right? I have to celebrate the things we're doing and accomplishing because it's not innately something that we want to do. But a lot of what y'all focus on is that piece. Like, you have to come in and recognize that so many of us have TBIs from different things. You have to recognize part of the healing process is all of this aspect. can you talk to us a little bit about, and I'll ask a question first. How many folks have or are a veteran or have a veteran family member? I think that's going to be a huge part of the room, right? How many folks have always questioned, I think that veteran or I am a little bit off kilter, a little bit quick to trigger, short fuse. Anybody recognize that? As Taylor raises her hand, right? Snitch. So there's, of course, y'all laugh at that. Wow, thanks. But there's a piece here of recognizing brain injuries. There's a piece attached to what feeds forward off of the symptoms, the aspects. Can you talk to us a little bit about what, if we're experiencing it as veterans, or if we're attached to a veteran, what are some of those signs, signals, the aspects attached to be mindful of this? And then also here's how Shepherd and Share can support.
Yeah. So it's not uncommon for us to be in front of a group of veterans and say, how many of you have had a brain injury? And hands stay down. Say, okay. How many of you know a veteran that's had a brain injury? Maybe some will come up and say, okay. How many of you were exposed to blast or breaches, door breaches, or had hand-to-hand combat that was intense, or were firing large weapons, or were in boats bouncing around on the water?
No.
Hands are.
We don't talk about Navy here.
We talk about everyone. Don't pull me.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry. My bad. You're right. You're right.
So the hands shoot up. And so there's a disconnect in thinking, you know, if I don't have that diagnosis, or I have been right next to someone that was visibly, clearly, tangibly wounded, and I look fine, so I must be fine. There's a separation of that. But then when we ask, have you been exposed to the blast? Say yes. Has anyone ever forgotten things that you used to not forget? Yes. Have you had migraines that you can't really explain? Yes. Have you ever found yourself tripping up over your feet or having to hold on to a wall to keep your balance? Yes. Have there been things that, you know, used to be super easy for you, but now that are struggling? Yes. Have you ever run into the door frame as you're walking through a building? Yes. So
Stop. All right. I'm guilty. I get it. Wow.
on and on and on. Those are the things that folks realize, oh my gosh, that might be me. And so, you know, years ago, in order to get care, so this was like pre-2008, before Shepherd stood up Share, we heard on the news in 2006 that service members were falling through the cracks. They were, particularly those with the hidden injuries. That was like the catchphrase then, the hidden injuries, the signature injuries of the wars, were mild traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. And particularly with mild traumatic brain injury, it's a hard thing to diagnose. The imaging doesn't capture it really well. And so folks were not getting the diagnosis. They looked fine, so they were falling through the cracks. And so what we did when we started Share is we said a diagnosis is not required. But that necessity to have a diagnosis has continued, where a lot of folks feel if they don't have the diagnosis, there is no treatment for them. And what we look at when folks are coming, if you have these symptoms, if you have these exposures, come on in and we can do this evaluation to really hone in and give you the treatment. You don't have to have a diagnosis on paper to be able to get better. Like those things, it's not a linear kind of requirement that you can only get better from something if you have that something documented on paper, is we can continue to work with folks to help them really return to their goals in how to navigate life and decrease those symptoms.
And I think a lot of that turns into not being labeled, right? When I deployed and came back 2019, the moment I came back, I was literally, here you go, your PTSD, you have a TBI, you have tinnitus, you have all these things, and immediately, like, I was disabled, right? At that point, I came back at 70%, and I'm like, I'm fine, right? Fast forward, then I found out nerve damage in my arm, several other things. But the initial piece of like that first like 3 days back in America, you're like, oh, you have all these disabilities, and you get labeled. So a lot of it is like we're running away from it, right? I don't want to be labeled as PTSD. I don't want to be labeled as damaged goods. Now, fast forward, the Army kicked me out because I was damaged goods and they medically retired me, right? So it's kind of like that whole rhetoric what we've been fed is that you're damaged, you can't continue the service of what you're wanting to do. there's a piece here that I absolutely love, and just for expectations, I'm going to go to some Q&A. So as I ask my last question, I'm going to work the room a little bit. If you'll have thoughts, questions, hey, does Shepherd do this? Does Share support this? If I have this person, can I bring them to you? I'm going to work a little bit. And if y'all have any questions along those lines, please be ready to ask them. But the last piece I want to ask you myself is like, what's the end goal? What's the end state, right? Share's doing all these amazing things. There's always and forever going to be the next veteran, the next military person. What's the end goal and end state for Share that you would see this is a metric of success of where we made an impact?
Well, we've already made an impact. I think, I think I speak for all of Shepherd with this, is that, Share will continue to be here to meet the needs of our veterans as long as funding supports it, like, period. There's no, like, we're going to do this for the next 5 years and then be done, or 10 years and be done. As long as there's a need and as long as there's financial ability, we will do that. And so, it's interesting. There's probably not in this room, because we're all here and we're supporting veteran causes, but there's a lot of folks who are more separated from that think everyone's safe at home because the wars are over. And the reality of it is, we are still seeing active duty service members in between deployments. We are still seeing special forces come through us, and we're working with scheduling to get them in when their command approves them to come in between deployments. Folks are currently getting injured. And so we are fortunate in one sense that we, as a kind of general rule of thumb, we are not really super aware of that because our military has done a really good job of keeping us safe. So on one hand, that's a really good thing. On the other hand, when things fall out of the limelight, then that recognition and awareness and need to support that kind of wanes a little bit. Even though we're technically in a peacetime, there's still a need, right? So I don't see Share going away anytime soon. And the success we can talk clinical data all day long. If you want to know about, like, the assessment for dizziness and headaches and balance and vestibular and migraines and sleep and PTSD symptoms, I will gladly nerd out with the data on that. But if we really look at what matters, we're seeing that. So let's back up a little bit. I believe, from my observations and working with the veteran community, the folks that step forward to wear the uniform are folks that want to serve something bigger than themselves. And what I've seen in my time doing this work is I've seen the brain injuries, and I've seen the eye injuries, and I've seen the amputations, and I've seen all sorts of injuries. But that desire, that sense of purpose, that sense to serve greater, that's not something that's really injured. That's not a consequence. That's not something I see in the aftermath. And so what I've seen is when veterans are no longer, from their perspective and to the skills that they have at that point in time, able to fulfill what's in them to have that sense of purpose that's contributing to the greater good, there's a huge disconnect that contributes to a great dissatisfaction. And so what we aim to do is really work with the clinical skills and the clinicians to help overcome those symptoms, to help the veteran go back to what really matters to them and really serve something that's bigger than themselves. And when you have veterans that are aligned with their ability to serve that greater good, like, magic happens.
And let's give her a round of applause for that. Exactly. You said two things there that I really want to highlight before I start talking to everybody in the room. When I deployed in 2019, it was with the Green Berets, with the special operations side of stuff. And when we went, we lost 6 out of 50. And everybody was like, there's war happening still? I'm like, yeah, we're very kinetic. And we ran ops every 4 days. So we were very, very busy. And then the pullout from the Middle East happened, or Afghanistan, so many other things. And I have so many people that I know personally that came back very different, if you will, that needed support like this. But so many family members have no clue. My family, to this day, they laugh like, yeah, okay, you did what? Like, you were attached to what and you did nothing? Okay. And they have no concept attached to it, because nothing against them, just the public doesn't understand how much we truly have going on over there, even outside of wartime, right? So that's a big piece. I love that you highlighted that. The second piece that we really founded Advancing Line on is finding a new mission and purpose. One of my greatest struggles leaving the military when I was medically retired was I'm a high achiever. I was a police officer here in Atlanta, did SWAT, did narcotics, did all the things, deployed to the Green Berets, top of the Army, top of, we'll say, the military, because who cares about Navy and SEALs and all that. But I was high achieving. I wanted more high achieving. I didn't want to transition over into entry level, whatever, boring thing, right? But it's almost like we were damaged goods. So you have to go into something that is marginal in comparison. So I love that y'all are highlighting that piece, right? Finding that new mission, finding that new purpose. How do we show veterans? And I think Shared does this so well. How do we show veterans that they can still achieve at this high level, no matter what injury they're healing from? And I think that's what y'all do so well. Give her one more round of applause, y'all. So this is where I have everybody except for Jared an opportunity to ask questions. I don't want him to go crazy on whatever he's going to say about you. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, comments attached to Shepherd, Share, all the way across? Of course, it's all the way across right off the bat. Philip, go ahead, brother.
So obviously we all have our networks here, within the military. But who do you usually see referrals coming from? When we think about a personal network,
I love that question. I would, I mean, the short answer is like any veteran, like, I mean, any veteran, right? We're not selective about, like, we want to be here for whoever needs to be here. Word of mouth is our highest referral source. Outside of that, within our network, Camp Southern Ground, just south of here, they have a great program with their Warrior Path and Boulder Crest, and we have a strong relationship with
And is
them.
that Zach Brown?
Zach Brown's camp, and Warrior Path, they really focus on post-traumatic growth, which is an incredible, I think coming up is National Post-Traumatic Growth Day. I think it's next week. So it's a whole concept of like good things come from bad scenarios. Instead of focusing on the post-traumatic stress of it, it's the growth. You can grow through that. So they're really leading the charge with that nationally. And so they have programs, and we're a part of this larger alliance, the Avalon Action Alliance, which is really combining that post-traumatic growth along with the brain injury sites. And that's been a really something that's been led by the Marcus Foundation, Bernie Marcus and Arthur Blank. They've combined their resources and really looking at setting up a national network. We have a strong relationship with Wounded Warrior Project. They have referred folks to us through their organizations. Locally, I think the important, I mean, it's one thing to make sure the veterans we know about get connected to the resource. I always worry about the ones we don't know about. And so, one of the really amazing things that Lloyd and Vetlana has done is they really try to open up that door to welcome as many veterans to come into the door to get connected in all various avenues. And so we've had and met a lot of veterans through those organizations. Warrior Alliance is a great resource in Atlanta that we refer back and forth. And so those are the formal resources. I would say on the active duty side, we found the recovery care coordinators within the units for the special forces have been incredible. Some of the units and some of the branches are more supportive than others. I would say though, I've been involved for about 12 years with Share, and I've seen a substantial change and evolution of folks being a little more open. But I would say the recovery care coordinators, nurse case managers within the various branches and units are amazing referral sources. But there's more. And I think the other thing is, there's 40,000 veteran nonprofits out there, and sorting through what's good and what's trash, right, in and of itself is an effort. And I think through the years, there's been a great effort across the nonprofit veteran space to really support and connect veterans to the care. And so the ones that are that really have the mission in the right place are really helping connect folks and doing those warm handoffs. We're done with here's a list, call these folks. You know, it's introductions that are really making a difference. Yeah,
So
but share with anybody.
a bunch of hands just popped up.
Sorry.
Taylor said she had a question too. Real quick, I'm curious because you probably know the nerd stats that you said,
Yes.
metrics wise. When it comes to PTSD, TBI, what's the trend? What's the translation over into suicide rates?
Oh yeah, no, so that's super important. So for many, many years, like PTSD was a sexy thing, right? Like most folks know about PTSD, and that was a sexy cause that everyone rallied around for suicide. And thankfully, through additional research, we're realizing it's not. I mean, thankfully or not, but that's not really the root cause. So back in, gosh, I think it was maybe 2016, there was one paper where the VA had tens of thousands of records of veterans, and they ran it through this algorithm to try to see what are the top predictors of veteran suicide. And they ran it through this algorithm and thinking, okay, PTSD is going to show up. And they ran it through 4 times and then decided to count it manually because none of the times did PTSD show up as a standalone precursor to veteran suicide. What the top 4 predictors of veteran suicide were based on that study was depressive disorder, substance use, bipolar, and brain injury. Those are and that's not in any particular order, just top 4 predictors of standalone. Now, PTSD coupled with that truly exacerbates it, but those 4 alone shows that TBI is a big deal. Now, last year there was a study out and it was published in JAMA. It was done by Lisa Brenner. She showed that veterans who have a brain injury are actually twice as likely to die by suicide than those without. And so what we are seeing now with the additional research is that it is absolutely pervasive, and it is key in identifying how do we help veterans, right? If we just go after suicide, that's great now, but go to the root. We got to go to the root. And so what we're seeing is the root has causes in brain injury, misdiagnosed brain injury, underdiagnosed brain injury, which is why awareness is so key.
I love that. And a huge underserved aspect, right? That I think there's a misnomer attached to on both sides that kind of prevents that care aspect.
Absolutely.
So I have a question that maybe a lot of us are wondering, and maybe a lot of us either been through or experienced yet. How do you educate the non-veterans who are part of the veteran, the spousal, children, the biggest veteran supporters, when they notice something is quote unquote different? What programs or education pieces do you guys have set, and how do you help them truly support the veterans when they're going through what they're going through?
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. Great question. No, Zach, I already got you pegged. We're going to talk anyway. So, you know, is your question, how does one or how do we? Like, how do we do that? So the key thing is we have to respect and recognize that, and HIPAA supports this, that the veteran is our patient. Right now, we encourage to involve the family as much as possible. A majority of the time that is encouraged. Rare instances, folks want to go it alone, and we try to support them not. But I think it's important to recognize, like, that's got to be, like, we got to respect the wishes. All that being said, we have a lot of things in place to support the family. When veterans come to us, we actually ask them, who is your circle of support? We have a whole caregiver questionnaire, support person questionnaire that we want them to fill out. How much education have they had? How much of their daily routine is really spent on the veteran? What does it look like? What would they like their routine to look like? How can we help them with that to really help? Now, the thing that's interesting, this is so interesting that you asked this too. So at Shepherd, we spend a lot of time on supporting family members. And in general, when folks have a catastrophic injury, we are teaching spouses and family members and parents to be caregivers for the first time. It's a sudden car crash, it's a sudden paralysis, it's a sudden brain injury. And so suddenly they have to be a caregiver. With Share, it's different because we tend to get veterans that have, that they've been trying to fight this and overcome this and navigate this for years. And the spouse or the parent or the sibling has been the caregiver for years. And what we're working on and teaching them is how to be partners again. And so the veteran has that independence again, and for the caregiver to be able to be a partner and to reestablish that intimacy where it's appropriate, or to reestablish those fun opportunities. And so it's very individualized, but it's a different spin than traditional caregiver support. These are tired caregivers that have been the rocks, and now we want to work on their relationship. When it comes to kids, we invite the kids to come in and they can see where mom or dad is getting their therapy, and they could talk to us, and we can teach them how to identify if dad's having a stormy day, a sunny day, or a cloudy day, and really break it down. But we want to welcome the family, but it has to be guided by what makes sense to that veteran. Again, not cookie cutter in that respect either.
She needs all the help you can give her.
Thank you so much for sharing. Question, so Eisenhower down at Fort Eisenhower now, is a tier 2 hospital that takes on specifically airborne injuries that are coming out of Fort Liberty, and out of units that are training near Fort Stewart and also Fort Liberty, and I don't remember what this is called now. More. Thank you for the input. I was wondering if you have a relationship specifically with Eisenhower, and because they treat some of those mild injuries. No, okay.
No.
I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, but would be happy to talk to them if you want to put us in touch for that, for sure.
Well, Maria Sanders, Maria Vet, you're on. First, I want to say thank you, because 20 plus years ago, my spouse was in the TBI unit for about 16 months. So I was one of the spouses, but also, military. So, over the decades, as some of you know, I have been such a big advocate for veteran causes, getting better health, things like that. The one thing that I always see, though, that's kind of like a barrier, is for pre-9/11 vets, and I know you have an answer. So, but I wanted to make sure it was addressed for folks that probably don't know the answer to this, that you would have. It's always been disheartening for me to go to some kind of networking event, come up to a table or something of people who are caregivers. And, I love the programs, things like that. I'll see another veteran come along and say, hey, do you do pre-9/11 vets? And it's always no. So I always feel like there's that gigantic gap between it's almost like we're on the So I want to make sure that, and I know the answer you're going to have it, I want to make sure that people know that what they can do for their friends that have gone out for 9/11, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that question. The reality of it is, we exist because we are standing on the shoulders of the generations and eras of veterans that came before. Truth be told, we as a country recognize that we did not do right by the earlier era veterans, and so for that I'm so incredibly thankful and apologetic for that at the same time. So as far as the pre-9/11, post-9/11, it is important to us to honor and respect the wishes and the direction of our donors. And so that was laid out pretty strongly initially, and we have since followed suit. To that question, though, so all that being said, as far as a rule of thumb, there is that cutoff between pre-9/11, post-9/11. We have been able, by exception, to be able to bring in pre-9/11 service members as we assess their cases. So it's not 100% as we will assess there as a rule of thumb. The beauty is, though, because we are now a part of the Avalon Action Alliance, and there's other sites following suit, and this is because Bernie Marcus is really driven to ensure that there's more care available, not just Shepherd, but there's more programs nationally. And so there are 6 other brain injury sites across the country that provide similar care to what Shepherd does for the mild brain injury. And they do by default will bring in pre 9/11 veterans. And so, you know, I think that's so important because there are so many pre 9/11 that feel that they're kind of stuck in this gap and are falling through the cracks, and there are needs that need to be addressed. So thank you. Yeah.
And we'll wrap with Mr. Turner here. So that way we can only, we can have some more conversation one-on-one, of course, but then also get refills on beverages because my jokes get better. But we'll make this the last question.
TBD.
So could you discuss the process of including families, specifically when it comes to kids? And then also, if you could also share with us the continuum of care after clients graduate from the program, because I think it's very important for everybody to understand when it comes to that support system, especially when it comes to kids, how welcoming that share is, but then also the tune-up side of after you get discharged, it's not like share just drops you. There's a process. So if you could just share that with everybody.
Yeah, so following up on the kids piece, whether it's kids or siblings or parents or spouses, we do welcome that. It's super important though to make it clear, and this has happened because we try to be open and supportive and welcoming to families and making sure families can support the veteran, because the veteran is who is here with us. Now, we try really hard to make that clear, but there are times where folks see the progress of their loved one and they see the hope in that. And then there are caregivers and families that are out there in the wind that have been just begging and hoping for a resource such as that for themselves. But our expertise is in brain injury care. And so we don't do family counseling like that. And we recommend it all the time. And there are some great organizations that will support families. There's the Cohen Network and there's Headstrong, and there's organizations out there that are built around providing that counseling directly for families. But all that being said, we do encourage folks to bring in their loved ones so that we can do education sessions so that the kids know how to talk to dad, so the wife knows how to support her husband. So, you know, and I keep saying that the husband or the dad. We have also had women veterans come through our program, but at the percentage wise, there's more men. So that's why I refer to the husband or the dad. But you know, that's super important, because if all we do is talk to the veteran and we don't include their circle of support, we're not setting that veteran up or that family up for success. And so, you know, years ago, I remember we had one veteran come to us, and he was very connected to his family. We have small apartments that folks can stay in. So if they can bring their spouse, stay in the apartment with us, maybe a child, as long as the spouse is agreeable to, you know, you can't be a client and a caregiver at the same time. We had one client who had 2 daughters who was adamant that they all come, the wife and the 2 daughters come together. And so we were not able to house them, but they were able to find an apartment in the Atlanta area and drive in each day. And that was totally fine. That they did this. It was a strong family unit. And I remember I walked into the unit and the daughters were with us every day, and we would go over to Shepherd and we play games together and we go on outings together so we could help them interact together in the environment. And I remember it wasn't long after this client had been with us, wife comes in, I walk in the door, the wife is there, she's walking at me and she's bawling in tears. And I'm trying to breathe deeply, embrace myself. Like, what have we done? Is this a customer service issue? Right? Just, you know, what am I up against here? And she's just saying, it was a Monday, and she said, I just wanted to tell you over the weekend what happened with my husband. He was on the floor, and I thought, oh my gosh, did he fall? What did we do? You know, he was playing with my daughters. He was playing with his daughters. This is the man I've been fighting for. My daughters have their dad back. And she was just in tears because she didn't think this day was going to come. And so that's the stuff that matters just as much, if not more, than how many points can you decrease your symptoms of headache scores. It's, are you able to do those things that matter? And so we really welcome the family in, because that's who's going home with the veteran, and that's who's going to be impacted for years and years and years. For the follow-up, speaking of the follow-up, so a lot of money is invested, individual donor support, foundation support, a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy is invested in helping these veterans, a lot of hard work There's no magic wand. It's not easy for a veteran to go through our care and be surrounded by a team that's really poking and prodding in every areas of their body, of their heart, of their mind, of their soul for numerous weeks. And so when we're done with that and they go back home, what we want to make sure is that they have support, because you go back home to old habits, old environment, old patterns. It's real easy to fall back into old habits that were not useful. And so we have a transition program where we have folks that will fly to the homes and communities of our veterans, no matter where they live, multiple times over the next year to make sure things are making sense at home. So we've been to Puerto Rico, we've been to Alaska, we've been everywhere in between, because we want to make sure things make sense at home. And so it's not a lip service kind of thing that we'll talk you through telephonically over the phone. We may try that, but we will also be there. We'll advocate at an appointment with the VA, because it's really important that these things go home and don't just exist within the walls of Shepherd.
That's absolutely amazing. Give a round of applause, y'all. So I want to make sure we have time to talk one-on-one with Jackie, continue networking, having different things. So I'm going to usher you away for a QR code for future events. So we'll give her a great round of applause. Let her finally drink that Jack and Coke. If you notice, she has some pamphlets around. She also has some cards on the table over here. So make sure if y'all don't have that yet, connect, reach out, do all the things to promote what Shepherd and Share are doing. Coming up, I want to hit a couple things coming up. Obviously, happy birthday us. The first Monday of every month, we have our flagship program, VetOps, Veterans Optimizing Professional Success. If you're a veteran that you want to tie in more to partners like Shepherd and get engaged more in the community in that professional development arena, share this QR, send that over to that veteran or veteran supporter, because we always welcome civilians just as much, because we need y'all probably more than the fellow veterans in the room. This QR is highlighting our upcoming events. I wanted to make sure I absolutely left off. All right. So the Vetlanta Q2 Summit is June 20th. So I updated this in a hurry today. Scan the QR code. This will take us to the events page. The Vetlanta Q2 Summit is going to be on there on the 18th. That's our next upcoming event. These are several of the things we have that are going in the future in partnerships across Atlanta. But if y'all scan that QR code, the next event we have is that Q2 Summit on June 20th at the Atlanta History Center, featuring several different folks. The big focus of this one, as Lloyd mentioned, Tunnels to Tower, and we're focused on veteran homelessness. If y'all aren't aware, they just did a groundbreaking over in the Douglasville Six Flags area. So several great things happening where they're taking an old hotel and gentrifying it into 93 condos, essentially live-in condos. So amazing partnerships, and we're highlighting, I think it's their number 2 in the organization. So they're going to come in and talk about several different things and the future growth and expanse for veteran homelessness in Atlanta and their goal to eliminate veteran homelessness. So scan that QR code. I'm going to leave this one up so y'all can register for future events. And overall, thank y'all for being here. Jackie, you're amazing. Thank you for everything you're doing. Y'all give her one final round of applause. Go network, grab a beverage. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Oh, it's almost gonna like, I'm like, hey, she's buried it for a minute.
Buckhead Club.
Okay.
Okay. Where you're standing right now.
Yeah. That's 2 up.
I would think so, but you never know.
Oh my
You
goodness.
never know.
They know, Manu Jefferson, obviously, I don't know about.
Okay.
Share. Is that an acronym, Share?
My question is, what are
No
the
idea what it stands for.
waitlist times?
No idea what it stands for,
Are
but
you
yeah.
talking about for share
You know how the military
specifically?
loves acronyms. Everything's a damn acronym.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
So,
great program.
So for
It's-
share, I would say right
They do some
now,
amazing things.
the
and
side,
She's
I like
obviously program lead of it all, so
that varies, right? So with that list,
knows the numbers. Like that's the impressive part. Like
someone
data
who's-
wise,
but it also
you know.
depends on how,
So
so
if you
some
rattle
folks
them
want to
off,
go through the
it's
process,
impressive.
and then they'll say,
Go take all
I
this nonsense off.
come to later,
Keep up pretty much. I'm out here.
but I
You're
want
all right.
because I got this vacation plan. And so
I
we'll
know.
schedule them out, right? But then there are other folks that are like, I will call as soon as you call me.
Keep
So
our info.
we go
Uh,
through
we
the
just,
list whenever we know
um,
the program, when their discharge date is.